The Canadian #1 bestseller Ian Rankin and Simon read, and you play rebuse, a game called Malice. Okay, Act 1. We open in the drawing room of a palatial Georgian era house in Edinburgh's wealthy new town. A meal has just finished. Some detritus remain, but not much. Maybe a bowl of fruit. The table, however, boasts an array of glasses and bottles, champagne, red wine, and a wide carafe of water, probably port and sherry too, is whiskey or brandy to come. These characters are seated around the table, except for Rebus, who prowls the room as if taking inventory. Candida has a face in a phone screen, merrily texting away, maybe primping and asking the occasional potting selfie. The room has 2 doors, one at either end. The walls are covered with works of art showing Parisian boulevards, white beaches, blue seas, still lifes of flowers and vases. These are the Scottish colourist school. Brackett's Sergio Pablo is a good comparison. There's also a large bookcase which will be pursued by rebels, or sofa or chaise lounge, and an occasional table on which sits a floral display, still in its elaborate wrapping from the florist. The seated characters, all except Harriet and Candida, are poring over the copies of a dossier handed out by Harriet as part of a game, and she has devised. Harriet is looking towards with herself. Her game has captured her guests' imaginations. The audience watch as they digest what they are reading. Let's go. You all look baffled. Give us a chance, Harriet. I need to focus. Yes, you do. Under the drink, Jack? Jack's had more than enough. Didn't realize I was dating my mother. He seeks to pull for a refill. The others continue to study their dossiers. So Lord Manningham's body was found in the billiard room, which sits adjacent to the orgy bludgeoned to death, presumably with the missing Chinese vase. How rare was this vase anyway? Do we know the details can be important? Said Stephanie. Harriet's line. There speaks the advocate, getting to the heart of the matter. An advocate on a rare night of thanks entirely to you, Stephanie said. Paul now states, but do we know the vase is the murder weapon? It could have been taken by the attacker if it really is rare, I mean. Candida. Well, I think it was the gardener. Harriet. Why the gardener, Candida? I don't know, I just do. Jack. Having assimilated available information without bothering to look at it. Candida. I looked. Stephanie. Quick to master her brief. Jack. You can't just go with a hunch, though. Paul. Why not? I have, now and then. Jack. And look what that got you. Paul looks uncomfortable, sees Harriet looking at him, and shakes his head at her. There's nothing to be discussed. Stephanie. Maybe the gardener was in cahoots with the poacher. Lord Manningham was on the poacher only a matter of time before he rumbled the truth. Candida. Maybe he was the one stealing from the wine cellar. Vintage Bordeaux fetches top dollar. Jack. It's certainly pricey enough in the restaurants you'd like me to take you to, my sweet. Candida. That's a markup. Jack. You were the wine trade for a bit, Paul, weren't you? I dabbled. Harriet. As in more things. Paul. What's that supposed to mean? Stephanie. Before Harriet can answer. Would the gardener know how to sell stolen wine? Oh. Paul, his irritation towards his wife reflected. What about the waker? He already had a door of a wine cellar, so he knows what's there. Jack. The clergy are all soaks, in my experience, all the blood of Christ. Candida. When did you ever go to church? Jack. They come to casino in Mufti and Mind. Stephanie. Plus the church of roof needs fixing and there isn't the money. Harriet, picking up the empty cafeteria. I'll leave you to mull it over while I top this up. She exits. Paul, and speaking of topping up, he gets up and moves around the table, checking who needs the glass replenishing. Jack, it's a cigarette I need, and some thinking time. Candida, they kill you, you know? Jack, something has to. He checks he has his cigarettes and lighter leaves by the other door, the one leading to the front of the house rather than the kitchen. Stephanie, means, motive and opportunity, just what they say. Isn't it, John? They used it in my day. They turned and acknowledged Ray was present for the first time. MMO, I like it, said Candida. Paul, what about their brother though? Doesn't he seem it to be good to be true, and there's been no loss between him and Lord Monningham since they argue about the witch woman he started dating? Candida, Madam Violet? Vampire rather than witch. Paul, well, she got her teeth into poor brother. The joke is weak and reaction too much. The two of them together, maybe. There's nothing to say we're dealing with a single killer, said Stephanie. Paul, hedging your bets. Come on, Stephanie, you're the lawyer. Surely you worked it out by now. Stephanie, and John's a detective, but he's yet to share any startling insights. Rebus, maybe I'm holding back. I'm a retired detective, don't forget. Replaced by a box ticking and gender awareness course. Paul, Stephanie's right though. John, this must be meat and drink to you. Rebus, I had plenty of both tonight, thanks to you and Harriet. Paul, well, the dinner party with Harry's idea, and once she gets an idea. Stephanie, I only ever see her at the gym. The number of times I invited her to lunch or cocktail. Paul, she's not much of one getting about, and the house needs so much looking after. Candida, so which one of you invited, Jack? Paul, Harriet thought it would be nice to meet him in the flesh. Stephanie, and hiring a chef for the night. Paul, Brendan was all my idea, I'm proud to say. Candida, Brendan? That Brendan from Jack's casino? Stephanie, to Paul, you sure as well. Everything was just perfect. Candida looks towards the door to the kitchen. Is it too late to say hello? Maybe when Harriet comes back? Rebus steering her back into the game. Thing is, in my day, we didn't find ourselves investigating too many murders in country piles owned by Lord and Lady Whatsit. Candida, I think you'll find Lady Manningham owns it outright. Lived here before she remarried. Paul, expectorate. I honestly haven't a clue. Harriet came up with the whole thing, threw herself into it. Candida, impressive. She would be able to monetize that. There's a sound to the market. She reckoned it might be a bit of fun. She's maybe misjudged our sleuthing ability though, said Stephanie. Rebus, not particularly a whodunit fad. I'm seeing Sherlock Holmes and Edgar Allan Poe, and that's about it unless you read a Poe. I'll leave books and art to Harriet. So where do your interests lie? I watch TV, especially sport. Is that it? I work long hours most days. I bet you do. Investments, he said, property, adding more steel and glass to the poor old Edinburgh skyline. Whatever brings in an honest Bobby John. Looks to me like an honesty pays. Mostly, I'm what's called an angel. I invest in startups to the hope of a return at some point further down the line. You're a gambler then, said Rebus. Paul, raw nerve touched. It's only gambling if you don't know what you're doing. Quoting, speculate to accumulate. Candida to Paul, isn't it how you and Jack met? One night at the casino before my time, of course. Paul, you make me sound ancient. Stephanie, compared to Candida, most of us are. Bringing it back to the game. The worker is a large man, isn't he? From his description, I mean, and the footprints outside the underinjury are a size 10. But when the gardener isn't exactly petite. Do the footprints even belong to the killer? What size feet did Lord Manningham have? Probably the same in death as in life. You need to enter the spirit of the game, John. Unless you're rather up for a different kind of spirit. Said Paul. Stephanie, the tiny details can be most important. Though they make you miss the bigger picture, art and walls, they are nice. Nice. They're the cream de la cream, said Paul. Rebus, worth a bit then. Rebus goes to touch one of the frames. No touching! Most of them have alarms fitted, Paul. Stephanie, Harry's very proud of his Scottish colours, and am I right in saying it's the finest collection still in her private hands, Paul? Paul, that's what Harry always says. Candida, motives, what we should be looking for, isn't it? Could they have a financial worries? The problem with all money is that there seldom seems to be any. It's all tied up in land. The constant repairs of those being Geordie House. My parents, with old money, taught me a lesson. Give me new money at any day of the week. Rebus, what's that? What attracted you to Jack? What makes you think that? Wasn't love at first sight. You think it wasn't love at first sight? Only teasing. Jack's wallet was certainly not deterrent. Stephanie, reading her dressing. You might be onto something, Candida. The bank manager had visited Lord Manningham for a thing that morning, meaning it was urgent. Candida, Jack's the only person I know who still uses a bank with a proper office. I mean, face-to-face meetings over risky. He say they're less likely to lie to him when he can stare them in the eye. I like being around people who have money. Then maybe I should apologize, said Rebus. Paul, don't tell me you don't get a decent pension from the police. Rebus, depends on what you mean by decent. Paul, 30 years service, as you said, gold watch and all that. Rebus, and now in my time is my own. Candida, if you've been a band cop, you wouldn't have to worry about money. Rebus, and what would you know about band cops, Candida? Candida, she might have said the wrong thing, drawing the word out. Nothing. Jack told you a few things, has he? Or maybe he just doesn't realize you're listening in his business while apparently busy with your phone, Rebus said. Stephanie, stepping into what is becoming awkward conversation. You do miss the job, John. No use denying it. If they wanted you back, you jumped to a chance. Rebus, jumping not only in a reporter. Candida, health is important, though health and lifestyle. Casting an eye over Rebus. Physique, especially for men of your age. I grew up in a time before health and lifestyle. Rebus, who sat out of a bouquet of flowers, fingers playing over a lapron. Candida, yes, I can believe that. So Harry comes back, enters cafe a moment and takes it back as she sets eyes on Rebus. Oh, I've been so flustered today. I've not had the chance to unwrap with them. Stephanie, a secret admirer, Harriet. They add something to the room. Paul. But then Brendan arrived and your focus was elsewhere. Were we discussing motive? I have to say I'm beginning to question yours. What's the matter? Is something wrong? Harriet, I looked for Brendan in the kitchen, but there's no sign of him. He can't have gone. He promised to tidy up. Paul, maybe you frightened him off. You were practically still waiting when you disrupted him in the whites. All those little visits to the kitchen during the meal. Harriet, make an effort to ignore this. What were you saying about motive? This little game of charades of yours. Candida, is that what it is? I've been trying to describe it to my followers. She sees Rebus quizzically look on Instagram. Candida, did I explain it to you, John? She's an Instagram influencer. Candida, not just Instagram, all available media platforms. I mean, there's more than one. I doubt you find my evidence of John on Instagram or Facebook or anywhere else for that matter. Candida, oh my god. Rebuse, Instagram sounds to me like a dealer who makes speedy deliveries. We actually had a guy look back in the day, arrested him half a dozen times, called himself Stellagram Tom. No Twitter, no Snapchat, you're not anywhere. Rebus. Except right here. Grounded in that little thing of us reality. Inside, unlike some. I could set you up on YouTube. You'd be at Genie Society. I'm serious, maybe I'm writing a long blog post. You're like a unicorn. Rebus. Pretty much how I felt towards the end of CID. The last of very old breed. Paul. To Harry, who is pouring coffee for those who want it. Any chance you can give us a few extra clues, darling? Your game has got us well and truly stumped. Harry. Maybe later. Rebus. I never said I was stumped. Yes, you got to the look. I remembered well from your days on the forest. The action previous on light changes, maybe a sound to signal. Here, Rebus walked through the room, pausing at each character as he addressed the audience. Rebus. Read the room. It's a phrase that gets bandied about these days. Someone, usually a politician, says the wrong thing, strikes the wrong chord, and it's because they have failed to read the room. The room being the court of public opinion, but when you're a detective, you do read the room. Quite literally, that's what Stephanie meant. The living room, the office, the alleyway, you study it and you begin to notice things. Certain subtle truths staring you in the face. Just look at this place with its art and books and fancy flowers, a telling story as a rare its current inhabitants, of course, all playing a game of some kind, or maybe even games plural. Stephanie brought me here tonight as part of a game, and I came because, well, I used to think there was a spark there. Maybe all fool that I am still do on the horse, so wealthy that the idea of a takeaway is a buy chef. And I install him in front of an agate. The air crackles between them when they speak. Then there's Candida. Just because she seems all self, it doesn't mean she's not. Doesn't mean she's not playing a game of her own. As for Jack Fleming, well, he's the reason I agreed to come, and I'm probably the reason why he'd rather be out on the doorstep cold as the night. Jack's done all for himself by breaking any number of laws and trampling those who dare to get in his way. He's well due a reckoning. The action resumes, Jack entering a shaking trail ride air from him and making sure of doing so. Beautiful sky, crisp and clear, our social rates done and dusted. You didn't see Brendan, did you? Jack, quiet as the grave out there. I'd never liked that about the new town. You come here at night. It's like everyone's hiding. Donnarumma, has he? Paid in full up front. Muck's game. So it was a boozy butler. Paul. Well, we were wondering if the wine was maybe Portland rather than quaffled. Jack pointed to Paul, who's raising glass to his lips. It's much the same thing to some people. People who rather others paid their tab. The meaning place that Paul has run upsize table at Jack's casino. Stephanie. Again trying to steer the conversation from the conflict. I have to say, Harriet, the heroine of your story could be based on you. Harriet. What makes you say that? Stephanie. Well, she's sporty, plays tennis and hockey. You once told me you played hockey at school, and you always promised me you'd play tennis one day. Rebus. But then that won't make the victim Paul. Candida. Well, that can be right. Drinking heavily and spending too much time at the village pub raised me with a rough landlord who breaks off many tools. Jack. Oh, I see what you mean. Jack. What makes you think I'm not the handsome brother now who now stands to inherit? Candida. But then that would make me the vampire woman. They look towards Harriet. Harriet. It's just a game. Candida. Milady's closest friend is an antique dealer. Didn't you say you collect antiques, Stephanie? Rebus. Does that make an antique? It makes a detective John, except there's no detective. Rebus, which makes the scenario slightly less than plausible. Apologies, Harriet, but in the real world, the professionals immediately take over. Scene of crime team, major incident, squad fingerprints and forensics evidence, gathering and interviews. Candida, so Mr. Expert helped put us out of our misery. Rebus, the missing ways is the key. I think we can agree on that, but is a forger's murder weapon or the reason the murder happened in the first place? How valuable was it, and was it insured? Stephanie, attempted insurance fraud, the last recourse of those in dire financial straits. Canadian, and strictly sparkling, Jack. It's not charades. That's where you mime something and your team has to guess what it is. Jack, you used to be on telly, Una Stubbs and Lionel Blair. Candida, I loved Una Stubbs. She was in Sherlock. Jack, she was. And Leona was Tony Blair's dad. Candida narrows her eyes. She knows he's lying. Not that you know who Blair was either. Candida, Labour Prime Minister fought an illegal war in Iraq, born here in Edinburgh and schooled at Fettes College. Jack, how do you know all that? No, don't tell me. You follow me on Instagram. Oh, John has no presence. Can you believe that? Jack, I can't believe most things are people like John. But good to you. If it wasn't for this casino, I steer clear to you. But it pays to advertise. I'm a public face, so I suppose I'm obliged. Harriet, how has your casino doing, Jack? I've given up trying to get Paul to talk to me. You need to stop hiding Harriet away, Paul. Renee's restaurant, you could treat her so you will know, or isn't it refined enough for good lady? Now chef's bedded in. That's what worrying you. Food is back where it is before Brendan Schlock his Harriet faith owner on the top of the game. Anyway, you're welcome to pay anytime. You even might change Paul's luck. And that's where I'm gonna stop for today.